Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online series 12 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. In the previous episode, which I've linked down in the description below, I featured a very fun team with Safety Goggles Wigglytuff with Heal Pulse and Competitive, Colberberry Swords Dance Necrozma, and Focus Sash Dry Skin Skill Swap Jinx. So we'll be playing a couple more matches with it today. I initially, found out about this team because I lost it against it on the ladder a couple of days ago, and so I'm really grateful for the original creator for sending me the rental. I've linked their Twitter down in the description below, and rental and paste are also down there if you want to try it out yourselves. Today is honestly one of the most exciting Road to Ranked episodes I think I've really ever had, especially in Sword and Shield, so I fully encourage you to check out all of the games if you have the time, and thank you so much as always for watching. If you enjoy, please show support by leaving a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. And question of the day, I just want to know how you would buff your favorite Pokemon, and that can be in any way, shape, or form. So let me know in the comment section below, and let's get started. Alright, first game of the day here, and it is Zacian Kyogre. Pretty standard stuff with Landorus, Thundurus, Incin, and Amoonguss. So, how do we want to approach this? I haven't really gotten a chance to bring out Dragapult. I mean, I brought it out to the third game yesterday, but it accomplished very little. I don't honestly think it's that great here, though, so we probably drop that. Koba Amoonguss is very valuable here. Is there anything that I can really do with Jinx? I mean, Jinx does allow for me to get, like, Trick Room and Fake Out Pressure. Can Lovely Kiss with it as well. Wigglytuff I want to bring here because they have Amoonguss, so I think I'm going to bring Wigglytuff. I'm going to go Wigglytuff, Amoonguss, Necrozma, Kyogre. Now the question is to figure out in what order. Ideally, we get Trick Room up. What are the odds they'd lead like Incineroar? Probably pretty slim. Something like Kyogre and Zacian immediately I think is actually the scariest thing, so then maybe I actually do consider Jinx. Like, I want to go with Necrozma Amoonguss, I think, with Wigglytuff and Kyogre in the back. Then what would I do? Turn 1, probably just go for Rage Powder into Trick Room. Or I could actually switch Amoonguss out. Like, the main fear is that they do indeed lead Zacian plus Kyogre, because that's a ton of offense immediately, right? And, like, Jinx solves that a little bit, because it can click Fake Out into whatever I think is not going to Dynamax on turn 1. But without Jinx here, I'm a little bit more vulnerable. So let's see. Okay, they're going to go with Amoonguss and Thundurus. I'm generally okay with this. From there in, it makes sense to just go, max Airstream into Amoonguss. You could also be Defiant, or sorry, Prankster instead of Defiant. I don't mind switching my Necrozma out into Wigglytuff right now because we've got the Safety Goggles, and just go for a Spore onto Thundurus right now. I could see this Thundurus being either set here, so let's just figure out what it is because I've got the Koba Berry, so even if you're Life Orb max Airstream, I can easily take that, and if we put you to sleep while getting the Wigglytuff out, that's pretty good. Because then it makes my opponent's Amoonguss completely useless going into the next turn. And then I can heal back the Amoonguss via Heal Pulse on Wigglytuff. I almost said Wea because I had the word or Wigglytuff's like name just in my head before I even said that, so that's funny. But anyway, okay, they're gonna stay in with Thundurus here. Necrozma's gonna switch out into Wigglytuff. Are you gonna Dynamax? Okay, it is just a Protect. That's fine. Yep, and they Spore into the Goggles. Cool. Given the Protect, I think it's very likely that it is just offensive Thundurus here. They don't really have anything to stop a Spore onto that slot right now. I could see Amoonguss switching out. Like, this turn I'm okay just going for Flamethrower onto Amoonguss. I mean, Amoonguss has actually nothing to contribute right now, so you would expect it to switch out, right? I could even, like, Spore into the Amoonguss slot to cover for the switch, but I think it's likely they go into, like, Zacian or Kyogre. You Dynamax Thundurus, or just let Thundurus get put to sleep. I think Kyogre coming out here makes the most sense from their end, personally. I'm willing to go for a Dazzling Gleam here for chip damage, and then just Spore onto Thundurus. Ah, they go for Fly. Okay, I like that play a lot. That's cool. Okay, we do confirm Amoonguss is slow here. It's obviously not a major surprise, but good to see. And it's going to be Giga Drain. Okay. I mean, that's fine. You really don't do that much damage to me here. Fly, obviously, this next turn can hurt, but it's a guaranteed Spore onto the Thundurus slot, which is really valuable. And I will go for Dazzling Gleam here because eliminating Thundurus is actually really important because it means that one of the major threats to Kyogre is removed, right? So they go for Rage Powder, but that actually accomplishes nothing because I am Safety Goggles here anyway. So it's just going to be Fly into Amoonguss, and they actually unfortunately miss as well. But I do have the Cobra Berry, right? So we could have easily taken that. Okay, cool. So, I mean, we're in great shape right now because I'm just getting free damage off, and this is the beauty of Safety Goggles. Without Safety Goggles, this obviously is completely different, but, like, here I'm actually willing to just click Flamethrower into Amoonguss and Spore into it. Because Amoonguss right now, you can Giga Drain, you can Rage Powder, but there's really not much that you can accomplish. And if I manage to actually, like, hatch Amoonguss switching out into a Kyogre or a Zacian and put it to sleep, my opponent's just in terrible shape, right? But they're going to stay in with both here. That makes sense. Fine by me. We'll get a Flamethrower off. Well, let's see how much damage it does into the Amoonguss. It's pretty solid. And we get a burn, so a lot of good RNG for our side right now. I'll take it. Another Giga Drain comes out. That's fine. I'm going to look towards Pollen Puffing the Wigglytuff this next turn, I think. Like, this game is kind of in an awkward like state right now because I don't want to switch Wigglytuff out because I don't want to get put to sleep on what I have in the back. One more attack and then Amoonguss might be in KO range from a Water Spout though, which is pretty valuable. So like here I'm willing to go for Flamethrower onto Amoonguss and then just go for a Pollen Puff onto the Wigglytuff. Thundurus does manage to wake up. Okay, and it goes for Fly once again. Totally fine by me. This is one of the awkward situations where I feel like neither of us really want to switch, but I think I have the full advantage right now, especially because they actually missed that first Fly, which is obviously very lucky. Okay, it's going to be another Giga into the Wigglytuff. It's honestly doing decent damage into Wigglytuff, more than I would have expected given that we're max special defense here. But Pollen Puff's going to heal Wiggly almost all the way to full HP. So, never thought I'd see a day where Wigglytuff and Amoonguss has a favorable matchup, but here we are. And that's pretty awesome to see. So another Fly is going to come down from Thundurus, so Spore into that slot's guaranteed. I'm fine just clicking Flamethrower into Amoonguss here, honestly, and then Spore onto the Thundurus slot. Like I said, I have the Cobra Berry, so I don't even care, right? And they do finally switch. Okay, so I did have the opportunity to capitalize off that switch that turn. And that may have been a little bit better. But I'm okay with that for now. Like, could you imagine if I put the Kyogre to sleep there, right? It'd be in amazing shape. But I'm still pretty happy about how this early game has played out. Especially because we've had pretty favorable luck as well. Okay, are you Life Orb? You're not Life Orb on Thundurus, so that's interesting. Okay, Flamethrower essentially does no damage there. Honestly, can't tell if it's AV or not still. Yeah, definitely raises some questions. Okay. Now what? You would think Kyogre maybe aims to Dynamax. You could actually Dynamax and Max Lightning into Wigglytuff to set up Electric Terrain so then I can't put you to sleep. Or you could just Hailstorm the Amoonguss. Or Geyser into Wigglytuff. So there are a lot of options right now. I think Geyser into Wigglytuff is probably the riskiest, to be honest. Since I'm max special defense here, I can definitely take a Max Lightning as well. So I'm honestly down to just Dazzling Gleam here and go for a Spore this turn. Even if I lose Amoonguss because Thundurus is asleep, it's a free switch in, right? And they're actually not going to Dynamax. Interesting. Okay, they just go for Water Spout. Oof, that was a lot onto Amoonguss, but we fortunately do survive. That was a crit, that's why. Okay, makes sense. I can't complain about that given the amount of good fortune I've had in the early game. So it's interesting, they're really not willing to Dynamax quite yet in this game, but I'm okay with that for now. So what is interesting here is, like, I want to set up Trick Room, right? But if I set up Trick Room, the Amoonguss in the back causes me a lot of issues. Right now, it's actually relatively free to just bring in Kyogre this turn and then just go for a Rage Powder into a Water Spout. I could also take the risk. Like, Thundurus has only taken one turn of sleep, right? And so, like, if we expect them to wake up and try to Wild Charge, I could always, like, take the 2/3 chance of them staying asleep and then switch Amoonguss out for Regenerator, but I think I'd rather play it safer here, so I am just going to Water Spout and Rage Powder. Okay, they do stay asleep, though. Looks like they were trying to go for a Protect. I'm just not willing to take the risk and like let Kyogre eat up a huge Wild Charge, or even crazier. Like they could Dynamax Thundurus and go for Max Lightning, right? So we get Water Spout off. Okay, that's a KO. Nice damage onto Kyogre as well. And the thing is, like, my Kyogre is actually in range to just Dynamax right now in this endgame, I think. So, like, I could pivot Amoonguss out into Necrozma. Like, Necrozma honestly doesn't accomplish too much for us here, but I liked leading it because it could pressure Trick Room, and if they didn't have Amoonguss early on, or, like, we could confirm that they just straight up didn't bring Amoonguss out, I think it could have had more value, but they're just going to bring their Amoonguss out, okay? I mean, you expect Spore right now, right? Into the Kyogre slot. I'm down to set up the terrain here so I don't get hit by a Spore. So Max Lightning into the Kyogre on their end. And I think switching Amoonguss out into Necrozma here is actually valuable because I don't think Necrozma accomplishes much in this game for us. If my opponent takes a 3-turn sleep, actually, I can get up Trick Room, and with Electric Terrain up, I think we just win the game. But saving Amoonguss is valuable because my opponent should have Zacian as their final Pokemon, and so with Amoonguss in the late game, a single Rage Powder can redirect a big attack away from their Zacian. I think the biggest surprise to me in this game is my opponent's like unwillingness to Dynamax while they had the opportunity with Thundurus and Kyogre. And so like if they take, you know, max turns of sleep here with Kyogre, they get punished really heavily. Even if Kyogre wakes up here, it's honestly not the end of the world. So I'm curious if Amoonguss just goes for a Rage Powder this turn, because I could have Geysered into it. No Rage Powder, and Kyogre stays asleep, which is the best case scenario for us here. Because now we've set up Electric Terrain, right? We don't KO the Kyogre, but honestly, I'm okay with that. Yeah, the main thing, though, is, like, I do want to get Trick Room up here. Yep, and they Spore. Doesn't work thanks to Electric Terrain. Perfect. Okay. Now I can go for base 150 Geyser. The thing is, you almost have to Dynamax Kyogre unless you didn't bring Zacian into this matchup, right? I guess you could max Amoonguss just for HP. That would be interesting. But, like, in this position, I'm down to Geyser into the Amoonguss and Trick Room. I think if they take another turn to sleep with Kyogre here and I actually get Trick Room up, it's game over. But they are going to commit the Dynamax here. Yeah. This is why conserving Amoonguss in the back is really important, by the way, because the endgame Kyogre using Water Spout next to Amoonguss is so strong for us here. And depending on Kyogre's item, I'm not even sure if you can one-shot Necrozma, so that's the big question as well. Let's see. Okay, they do manage to wake up. It is going to be Geyser into Necrozma. That's fine. If we survive, we should win. Beautiful. And the reason I say that is because now with Electric Terrain, you can't really stop Kyogre under Trick Room. So even if I don't KO Amoonguss here, it's totally fine. And the margins were really thin here. Both Pokemon were such low HP, but yeah. Like, yeah, Giga Drain does a little bit of damage, but now I can just click, another bunch. Like, I'd rather click Water Spout, I think, right? Because, like, Amoonguss is burnt right now anyway. With Necrozma, I could Swords Dance. I guess the rain does stop. So with that, maybe I don't KO Amoonguss. It's such low HP, though. Oh, and I still have one more turn to Dynamax. Actually, I forgot about that. Funnily enough, I'd actually rather not be maxed right now, but that's fine. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think I can just go for Geyser. Unless, okay, let's assume the only worst case here is if Amoonguss is foul play into Necrozma. Otherwise, you can't knock it out. And we still have 3 turns of Electric Terrain. So I'm down to just Geyser into the Kyogre slot. And then just Sunsteel Strike into Amoonguss. I think we should have our opponent trapped at this point. Shoutouts to Wigglytuff this game. Like, the safety goggles set was amazing specifically to just make my opponent's Amoonguss useless, right? And I think ultimately, like, my opponent got a little bit greedy with their Dynamax, and we were able to punish them really heavily for that. Okay, Amoonguss switches out. I think that's a good play. There's Zacian coming in. Yep. But this works out perfectly, right? Because now I just have an end game where I just click, well, the question, I guess, is do I click Origin Pulse for Water Spout? But with me still having Amoonguss in the back, I could even, like, switch in the Amoonguss and then Pollen Puff my own Kyogre, which is also pretty sweet. It's really nice damage from Sunsteel Strike, honestly. Okay, Geyser here should KO the opposing Kyogre. Perfect. I could have split my damage the other way, like Sunsteel Strike into Kyogre, Geyser into Zacian. Maybe that's a little bit better. Because we might just one-shot Zacian, honestly. Sunsteel Strike does get a crit there, but I don't think that one really matters. Okay. Now you just bring out the Amoonguss back in. Still a couple turns of Trick Room left. You have healed up a little bit from Regenerator, but that's still really fine. I mean, Giga Drain's not even doing that much to us here, and there's still 2 turns of Electric Terrain. Yeah, honestly, I'd rather Water Spout here, I think, this turn, and Sunsteel Strike into Amoonguss, because I don't want to risk missing. And even with Giga Drain here, I think Water Spout does enough to KO Zacian. I just, like, misses are how my opponent can get back into the game, right? And like, the Zacian took a fair amount from that Sunsteel Strike to begin with, so I'm not sure if it really has too much bulk invested into it. And it goes for the Protect, which makes sense here. Okay, they're just going to go for the Giga Drain. That's fine. 175 down to 15. So it did do 60 damage, which might mean that I have to maybe click Origin Pulse the next turn. It depends on whether or not we KO Amoonguss here, because if we just KO Amoonguss, then I can just Water Spout instead. Okay, there's Sunsteel Strike. Oh, that's a KO. Okay, nice. I have to say, Necrozma's damage output was actually a lot better than I expected throughout this entire game. So, yeah. Not really much my opponent could have done there, I guess, other than hoping for Zacian to survive the Water Spout, but I just don't think you're surviving from that angle. So, like I said, you know, we definitely got a little bit lucky in this game with the initial Fly Miss onto Amoonguss and the burn onto their Amoonguss as well. But I think my opponent just got a little bit greedy with their Dynamax. Like, they could have maxed Kyogre the turn that they clicked Water Spout, and I can understand why they didn't, because, like, spread damage there was just really valuable into both Wigglytuff and Amoonguss, and if you don't have Ice Beam, like, you might not even be able to hit the Amoonguss for much, and the idea was to KO Wigglytuff. So, I can definitely understand that. But, yeah, by not... And then they also could have Dynamaxed Thundurus after the initial one-turn wake-up, right? But they chose not to, and they end up getting punished really heavily for it. So, yeah, Wigglytuff plus Safety Goggles was amazing. I think this game was just an amazing demonstration of how valuable Safety Goggles in itself as an item can be, because my opponent basically was locked into a spot where they never wanted to switch out their Amoonguss, because if you switch it out into Zacian or Kyogre and gets hit by a Spore, it's a disaster, but they also weren't applying like a ton of offensive pressure with the Pokemon next to Amoonguss, and we were able to get an early sleep onto it as well. So, yeah, fun way to get things started here. Next game here, and there's a Garchomp, which is very cool to see, as well as a Venusaur. However, there's a Calyrex Shadow Rider, which is not very cool to see. Now, one thing you all pointed out in the previous episode, which was a very good comment, is that Wigglytuff is actually immune to Ghost. I actually just kind of forgot about the normal typing, and just thought it was Fairy. So, Calyrex Shadow Rider is really one of the worst Pokemon to go up against with this team, but Wigglytuff, now being immune to it, can at least offer me some answers. I think, like, if we want to win this, I need to really get Trick Room up, right? And so in order to get Trick Room up, like, I think Jinx and Wigglytuff's actually interesting. I guess I could go just Amoonguss and Wigglytuff as well. We're not going to bring Dragapult here. They've got Rillaboom and Venusaur, which is also pretty scary. So from my opponent's end, what's your best lead? Like, you can lead Calyrex plus something else. Calyrex and a max option would actually be your best bet, like Calyrex and Venu. Okay. I'm interested in Amoonguss plus Necrozma, Wigglytuff in the back to, like, divert attention away, and then I can use it as a switch-in with Kyogre as my fourth. Yeah, I think, unfortunately, the Calyrex Shadow Rider matchup is just really difficult here. So, this team, though, doesn't have, like, Gastrodon. Yesterday, the problem was that not only did they have Calyrex, they also had Zapdos and Gastrodon. The combination of all three was really tough to break through. Here, I actually feel like we have a better chance. It's still hard, but we'll see what we can do. Yeah, it is Venu and Calyrex. Okay. So, I'm curious if they just, like, fish for a Sleep Powder immediately. My other question is, like, you know, the Psychic type attack on Calyrex. Because right now, I could just go for Spore and Trick Room. Now, I have Wigglytuff as a switch-in, right? And it has Goggles, because there's, like, a decent chance they just go for, like, a Sleep Powder onto the Necrozma, and then just Astro Barrage. You could also Sleep Powder and then go for like a Psychic type attack into Amoonguss. I think I'm down to go for Spore and Trick Room here because, like, I should get one of the two off, and that's pretty valuable. Venus switches out, okay. Into Incin. Would have been pretty cool to catch the Incin in and then get a competitive boost, but that's pretty hard to accomplish here. Okay, and they just Astro Barrage. That is honestly one of the better outcomes, I think, because we should survive here. Nice. Okay, cool. Putting the Calyrex to sleep is huge here. And now we get Trick Room up. Fantastic. Okay. So now ideally we get Wigglytuff out. The best case would be catching Incin as they, you know, try to Parting Shot us. I mean, the other thing here is I don't need to necessarily bring Wigglytuff out. Also, like, what are they going to have as their forward Zacian? So Kyogre is pretty solid across the board. Could be safety goggles on Incin is the thing, so that's the one thing we might want to be careful about. And I also want to start getting damage off in this game. I think this turn I'm willing to click Spore onto Incineroar and go for a Swords Dance with the Necrozma. Okay, they go for Fake Out. Onto Amoonguss, that's fine. The question is, though, do I want to Dynamax Necrozma? Like, I could Pollen Puff here. How fast is their instinct going to be relative to us is the other question I have right now. We're 82. Could underspeed us. Basically, I want to go for Spore and Rock Slide here. Like, this is heavily in my favor because, like, first of all, it's a 2/3 chance for them to stay asleep and I have a flinch chance. So I think I'm willing to go for this. Incin switches out, so that's probably going to be the Venusaur coming back in. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, Calyrex actually just tries to protect, it looks like, and they do stay asleep, so that's pretty good. Because the fun thing is now I can actually bring in the Wigglytuff to eat up the competitive boost, right? If you're my opponent, you know, does it make sense to switch out here? I would probably switch Calyrex out. So I'm down to pivot Amoonguss out into Wigglytuff right now. And Sunsteel Strike in case they stay in here. But if we can get a competitive boost off Incineroar, it would be absolutely huge. We haven't Dynamax yet, by the way, and I actually think Wigglytuff could be a max option in this game if it gets a competitive boost off. Let's bring Wigglytuff. Okay, I think that's Instinct coming in. Okay, so that's cool. My question is, though, can I get a second Trick Room up in this game? And, you know, I didn't click Rock Slide here. I went for Sunsteel Strike because I really didn't want the Calyrex to have a chance of attacking, which I really don't mind. Oh, I like this max option on their end a lot, though. I think that's smart. So it's going to be Max Venu. I wonder if they just Quaked into Necrozma here. I also wonder if a +2 Max Flare KOs the Venusaur, because if so, I actually think that's worth going for onto it next turn. I'm not sure about that calc, though. Okay. I think that max also makes sense, given that... Well, I guess you've seen most of Necrozma's attacks, so you probably wouldn't expect a Psychic type attack at that point. It's okay damage from Sunsteel Strike. Good Vine Lash here. Okay, it does go into the Necrozma slot, so we're pretty low HP right now. I might honestly want to Dynamax Wigglytuff, which is not a sentence I ever thought I'd say. 40 down to 6 HP. Like, does +2 Max Flare KO Dynamax Venusaur at 60%? It is maxed. I think it'll be close. I think it really depends on how much bulk they have. But I also think I'm willing to go for it. So, Max Flare here. And I could see a world in which they click Fake Out onto the Wigglytuff. And I don't want Amoonguss to actually take any damage, so I'm down to just Rock Slide here as well. Win or lose, we got a Dynamax Wigglytuff while using this team, so I think I'm pretty content here. And I even got it in a position where it could get the competitive boost, right? So, Dynamax, oh, it's so happy. It's so happy when it maxes. I love that. That's the energy we need in 2022. Okay, no max guard. It is just fake out. That's fine. The other thing to consider is that my opponent does have Zacian as their fourth, right? And Zacian's obviously just going to be really good into Wigglytuff. Okay, Wigglytuff does get the one-shot onto Venusaur, though. Not bad. Okay. So the tricky thing here is still maneuvering this endgame. We can actually one-shot Zacian with the Wigglytuff, but I have to be really careful because, like, right now, they should bring out Zacian, right? Wait, but if you bring out Zacian, don't I just win the game with Kyogre, actually? Because I can just Water Spout. So I don't even care if Wigglytuff faints. Right? Yeah. The alternative is to bring out Amoonguss, but the problem with Amoonguss is then they can just max guard, or sorry, protect Zacian and then Flare Blitz into Amoonguss. So I actually think going out into Kyogre here is the correct option. Oh, but they actually just go into Calyrex instead. Okay. That's even better. I think with that, our odds of winning are even higher right now. My opponent was definitely not expecting that knockout, though. I'll tell you that much. Okay, so my opponent's angle here is to go for a protect. You need to wake up with Calyrex, but they have taken 2 turns of sleep, so the odds of waking up are actually pretty high. You need to wake up, and then you need to sacrifice Incineroar here. Good parting shot into Kyogre, I suppose. Basically, if we get a single Origin Pulse off or Water Spout off, we win against Zacian. If Calyrex takes the 3-turn sleep here, we also just win. I think here I'm down to Starfall. And I'm actually going to switch out into Amoonguss because this covers for the Behemoth Blade incoming from Zacian later on. Yeah. I thought Zacian would come out there for sure. Oh, Instant actually makes the hard switch. Oh, it's Rillaboom as their last one. They didn't bring... Okay. I think that works out more in my favor, especially if... Actually, even if Calyrex wakes up here, it's fine. And they stay asleep. Because I just changed the terrain now with Wigglytuff. And it's going to get another competitive boost. Wait, we actually somehow got a game where Wigglytuff actually just swept. Are you kidding me? No way. I am so happy. Like, I could never play a game again with Wigglytuff, and I think I've accomplished everything I wanted to do with this Pokemon in Sword and Shield. No way. This worked out even better, because I was trying to play around a Zacian endgame. Oh my gosh. And we get to +4, and we have another turn of Dynamax here. I think it makes sense from my opponent's angle, because if you look at the team, they're thinking, well, you know, Zacian into a team with Necrozma can be a little bit scary, and you're more Trick Room oriented. I still think it's a solid ring for them, but the Rillaboom prioritization makes sense to beat the Kyogre. But now we're at +4. Last turn of Vine Lash. I've changed the terrain as well. Yeah, I mean, I'm down to just Starfall into Rillaboom here, and just Pollen Puff into Wigglytuff. They could fake out with Incin, and then you would maybe go for Woodhammer. That's your only chance of winning, like Woodhammer crit onto Wigglytuff. Okay, they go for Protect, that's fine. Because it means I'll be able to heal up the Wigglytuff. Oh, actually, not with the fake out. Yeah, I guess I could have targeted the Incineroar instead, actually, then, to guarantee the knockout there. That may have been a little bit better. But the reality is, I should just win anyway with Kyogre in the back. Yeah, maybe it was a mistake to not target Incin there, though. Keep in mind that I actually can deal decent damage with Pollen Puff into the Rillaboom as well, right? And I have a +4 Dazzling Gleam. So here, I actually don't mind clicking Protect and then going for a Pollen Puff onto the Rillaboom slot. The reason I didn't target the Incineroar there was because I think Instant is actually the correct target just because it so rarely carries Protect. Yeah, so there's Woodhammer. Cool. Probably Flare Blitz. Oh, it's actually Taunt. Okay, that makes sense. But to be honest, I don't have much incentive to go for anything else other than Pollen Puff right now anyway. So, yeah. Beautiful. And that actually just puts it in KO range. So even if Woodhammer KOs Wigglytuff here, the game's over. So we're just Dazzling and Pollen Puff. I've just said Wigglytuff couldn't pick up 3 KOs in a row, but we'll take it. I think Woodhammer should get the knockout here, but let's see. Goodbye, Wigglytuff, but thank you for all that you've done for us today. And this is perfect, right? Because now I just have Kyogre out in this end game against the Incineroar. Okay, they're going to Flare Blitz, that's fine. I just cannot believe, like, we actually managed to get a game where, like, Wigglytuff actually essentially swept the game. That is so cool. I'm so happy right now. And this was the missing piece yesterday. Although I truly think the Calyrex team that we went up against in the previous episode, I had like no way to beat it, because the like Zapdos, Calyrex, Shadow Rider, and Gastrodon is such a ridiculous core to go up against for us here, unfortunately. So yeah, we can just Water Spout now. Yeah, the fact they switched in Rillaboom and allowed us to have terrain control was so huge as well, because it meant that, you know, you obviously can't do as much damage with Grassy Glide, and then Woodhammer also does less damage, and then you don't have to Prio for Grassy Glide as well. So, what a day it's been for Wigglytuff. Like, I am just so happy to show off what this Pokemon can do, because, you know, it sees essentially no usage in this format. But we had back-to-back games where the first one, it was more meant to, like, wall the Amoonguss and just, like, make it annoying for my opponent. And the second game, we actually put it in a position where it could fully sweep my opponent, which is not a sentence I ever thought I'd ever expect to say. So, we'll look for one final game here, but it has been a tough day here. Final match here, and if we could get any value out of Wigglytuff, I'd be so happy. It actually is Landorus plus Incineroar on the opposing team, so Wigglytuff actually can put in a lot of work. The 6 that my opponent has is just a very standard 6 for Zacian Kyogre right now. Andrew Ding used the exact same 6 to get top 8 at both Indianapolis Regionals as well as New Jersey Regionals. So, Wigglytuff, 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 tough. I mean, can I do anything with Jinx here? Because I can fake out, like something like Jinx and Necrozma is actually interesting to me here. I guess the problem is that they lead like Landorus plus Kyogre, or I don't know, Kyogre Zacian, then you could Dynamax Kyogre. But Kyogre Zacian was the lead I was afraid about in the last, not the last game. I've been worried about that previously though. And if the problem is if you're Life Orb Kyogre, right? Then my solution is actually just put you to sleep with Jinx. Okay, Jinx. Necrozma. Wiggly. I ended up not bringing Kyogre here. I think that's a mistake. But I was like, oh, Wigglytuff's had such a good day. I want to bring it for a third game here. So, yeah. Kyogre is just way more valuable as a late game sweeper here. I don't know who to bring. Like, I guess Kyogre over Amoonguss. Like, Kyogre over Jinx is, I think, the objective right answer. It's actually Grim plus Kyogre. Okay. Honestly, here I'm very interested in just going for a Lovely Kiss onto Kyogre on turn 1. You know what would be so cool? I could actually skill swap onto Necrozma right now to eat up a Max Geyser. Grim, however, could go for speed control into either slot. Honestly, though, low-key, I think this is a really interesting option, so I am going to go for skill swap into Trick Room. It's not the most optimal, probably, but, like, let's say Grim just goes for a Reflect, which I think would make a lot of sense here. They could also trick Iron Ball into either slot. Grim switches, though. That's cool. Is that Incin? Okay, it's Rillaboom. The problem with not bringing Kyogre is now, like, I lack a lot more damage output, right? And that's kind of concerning. But this is going to be kind of cool if they end up, yeah, maxing Kyogre and Geysering into Necrozma. Also, don't discount Amoonguss as an offensive option here. This probably means they didn't bring Instant then? If it's Rilla, Kyogre, Grim, you would think Zacian is the 4th. Which then means, unfortunately, Wigglytuff gets a lot less value. But then it also means Necrozma gets a lot more valuable with Swords Dance. Oh boy, here we go. Okay. Let's go! I just wanted to show off that play. I don't know if that necessarily... Like, we're not even in, you know, that much better of a position. But that's just such a cool play to make. I just really wanted to go for that. Now what? You have Fake Out Pressure with the Rillaboom. I no longer have Dry Skin on Jinx, but I do have Lovely Kiss. They could max Lightning me, though. I think ideally I want to switch out into Amoonguss here and click Swords Dance. Because I think what we angle for in this game is a Necrozma sweep now. We just didn't get to use Skill Swap at all with Jinx at all throughout our time with this team, so I really wanted to feature that. Fake Out. Perfect. Swords Dance number 1. One thing I do really have to worry about here, though, is foul play from the Grimmsnarl, especially if it's Iron Ball. So we're going to want to be careful about that. Okay, and they Lightning into that slot. Perfect. But with Amoonguss with redirection support here, I think that's going to be really valuable. So what I can do this next turn is just Dynamax Necrozma now. Dynamax Necrozma and Steel Spike into Rillaboom is really safe. And I think we just go for a Protect here with Amoonguss, because then I can just Rage Powder the next turn. The only thing that makes this bad for me is if they actually have Incin over Zacian as their 4th, but I really don't expect that here. I'm so glad to like feature all the tricks of this team though, because you know when you use a team that has like a lot of unconventional Pokemon and sets, it can be hard to execute them. But today we've gone up against, I mean the team we're going up against right now is as standard as it gets, right? And so to be able to like showcase a really cool strategy against something that's really common is always one of my favorite things about the game. Okay, so Amoonguss protects. Ah, they're protecting? Okay, yeah, that's a good protect. I'm still fine with that, but like it meant I actually could have gotten a second Swords Dance up, right? But I think that's a little bit greedy, especially now that the Electric Terrain is set up. So a defense booster is actually going to be valuable though to help out against foul play from the Grimmsnarl, which I was worried about. See if it's Hailstorm here. Yep. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna pivot Amoonguss out into the Jinx this next turn then, because with Jinx out I can click Fake Out onto whatever comes in on turn 3 after I KO Rillaboom, and I can actually Fake Out into Kyogre as well, right? So like there I could agree to Swords Dance, but you know I don't want to get hit by a Max Lightning and Electric Terrain onto Necrozma and take like unnecessary damage. I guess their Trick Room is over as well. Oh, sorry, their Dynamax is over, so like we have pretty huge Dynamax advantage right now. I don't mind making the switch here, though, I think. Because, yeah, we can switch Steel Spike into Rillaboom. One thing I do want to be a little bit aware of is how I beat the Kyogre in the long run, but how many turns of Electric Trainer left, actually? Still 3. It's going to be hard to get a Spore off anytime soon. Yeah, let's go out into Jinx here, and let's just go for a Steel Spike onto Rillaboom. The other interesting consideration is, like, just getting defense. I mean, the reality is, like, it's actually going to be really hard for them to KO Necrozma because I'm immune to water right now, and Zacian won't be able to do much damage to me. So, like, it's actually very likely we can get a second Trick Room up in this game. And this might just be a full Necrozma sweep if so. Man, this is one of the most fun episodes I think we've ever had on Road to Ranked, like, in the history of me doing this series on YouTube. Okay, just another Ice Beam. Perfect. Fine with that. Beautiful. Jinx takes that like the champ. Let it is. So we have one more turn of Dynamax left here on the Necrozma. I still haven't seen the item on Kyogre. I think it's most likely going to be Assault Vest here. We've seen Water, Ice, Thunder. There's Zacian as their 4th. Okay. Okay, so Zacian is out now. We have one more turn of Dynamax and one more turn of Trick Room. One more turn of Dynamax, one more turn of Trick Room. Like, this is where if I had Kyogre over Wigglytuff, we probably would have just had this game locked up already, but, you know, I had to bring the Tuff. I had to do it to them. I mean, these defense boosts are really valuable for me right now. I'm faster than Kyogre. Like, I think Fake Out into Zacian and just Rockfall here is fine. Because I think they can't even deny me a second Trick Room. Oh, okay. I like that play a lot. I don't know. I don't think +2 Rockfall KOs the the Grim here. Because this is the one way they can maybe KO Necrozma, which is going for Foul Play onto me. Oh, but you know what's interesting? Like, I have the defense boosts, and then I can actually skill swap back onto Necrozma to give it Prism Armor. Ooh, we almost killed Grim there. That was so close. Like, I really don't want to lose this game after the lead that we have, but because I have Wigglytuff in the back, it's still not a guaranteed win. Oh, it's so close there. Okay. Trick Room expires now, though. So, like, one play you can make right now if you're my opponent is just Behemoth Blade and Foul Play. But would Foul Play really KO with the defense boosts? Like, I wouldn't expect it to be honest. What do we expect here? Behemoth Blade. I'm down to skill swap because I think they might double up onto Necrozma. And if I get another Trick Room up, I should win this, right? Yeah, because then I just outspeed under Trick Room. Oh, okay, their solution is Thunder Wave. That works for me. They might not even have Foul Play on Grimmsnarl then. If not, then they're really screwed, I think. But now they're hoping for a full para, obviously. And it's just Blade on a Jinx. Perfect. Yeah, if we get Trick Room up here, like Electric Train expires, you bring in Kyogre. I still have the ability on Necrozma. Amoonguss comes out. I do get para, though. Okay. And this is where if I had Kyogre in this endgame, like my Kyogre could just click an Origin Pulse really freely. But I think the reality is that they're still going to struggle to actually KO Necrozma because I got the skill swap onto it. So I'm down to just bring out Amoonguss right now. The Thunder Wave there, by the way, makes sense because, like, they're saying, hey, like, at least I give myself a chance to win by getting full paras. Honestly, though, if I lose this game, it'll be to full paras, and I'm okay with that because I feel like I'm really happy with how I played. And there's nothing I can really do to deny that other than going for Steel Spike into the Kyogre slot, which admittedly isn't a terrible option because I think Kyogre might be even bulky enough to take the +2 Rockfall, honestly. So now you can go for Sacred Sword and, like, Thunder onto Necrozma. I am going to Protect here because the other play is just the Behemoth Blade, the Amoonguss, right? And I think, like, the Necrozma's bulky enough here where I can take multiple hits. And if you're my opponent, you would want a Behemoth Blade to KO Amoonguss right now. Yep. Okay, perfect. Now you really shouldn't be able to hit the Necrozma for much other than Thunder. So, yeah, it's just them hoping for another para here. 192 down to 130. Take that pretty well. Nice. No para. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay. That's exactly what we're looking for. And you see the dry skin Necrozma. I am just so happy about the games we had today. Like, even if there were losses, I'm just happy to show off cool strategies like this, right? So let's click Spore onto the Kyogre slot now. And then Sunsteel Strike into Zacian. I think Zacian probably protects here, but it's fine. No protect, cool. Yeah, I mean, the only frustrating thing is having to roll some dice with the para rolls right now, but no para here, which is huge. I think with that, then we should win the game. The thing, other thing to think about is our, like, sustain in this endgame is crazy with all the healing. Ooh, that's almost a one-hit KO. Cool. Okay, and just go for Blade again. So now Wigglytuff comes out. And we can just Dazzling. They do one-shot us. I could still lose this game off paras, though, I suppose, which is really scary, and that would be really sad. But now I'm just going to bring out Wigglytuff. Our play is to Dazzling Gleam into Rock Slide. Actually, one other play to consider is just protecting Wigglytuff here. That stalls out a turn of Rain, but it stalls out a turn of my own Trick Room too. And like, they've only taken one turn of sleep on Kyogre. And it's like, can Kyogre really one-shot Wigglytuff here with an Origin Pulse? I don't think so, honestly. So yeah, I'm down to just Dazzling Gleam and Sunsteel Strike into Kyogre here. I could Rock Slide, but with us being parried, I don't want to deal with any misses. But maybe protecting Wigglytuff is more optimal there, honestly. Okay, no para though, beautiful. Their win con then, it's Origin Pulse crit or Ice Beam Freeze / Thunder para into the Wigglytuff right now. Oh, that's amazing damage from Sunsteel Strike. Okay, beautiful. But you can see if I had Kyogre in the back here, I think this would be a little bit easier because then I just like click Water Spout and I have a bulkier Pokemon to work with. They do manage to wake up. Yeah, it is Thunder. Okay, I see, going for a crit onto Necrozma maybe. Not going to be enough though. That turn 1 skill swap literally won me this game, I think. And I'm so glad I could feature that. How many turns are Trick Room left? 2? Yeah, so we can just keep spamming Dazzling Gleam and Sunsteel Strike here. They need a double protect and para or freeze onto Wigglytuff right now. Yeah. That was one of the most fun episodes I've ever had in Road to Rank, like, ever. It's just so nice to use an unconventional team and then show off, like, really cool strategies with it, right? Like, the team we went up against is as standard as it gets in this format, and that skill swap is, like, something that you would never see coming, right? So, turn 1 could have been a little bit scary. Them switching out Grim was actually really surprising, but a very pleasant surprise. Like, if they had gone for Thunder Wave onto Jinx, for example, my turn 1 play just doesn't work at all. And if they go for, even if they have Fake Out or Trick Iron Ball, there's a lot that can go wrong for us there. But, you know, in best of 1, these strategies are so hard to see. And I figured if there's any time to go for it, it's today. And I'm just, yeah, really riding the wave here with Wigglytuff putting in amazing performances and Necrozma with the skill swap Jinx doing so much work as well. So I am so happy. So thank you so much as always for watching. Thank you to the original creator for creating this team and for whooping me with it. If that had not happened, I would not have been able to feature it on the channel. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the games today. Thank you so much. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all next time. All right, peace.